Good afternoon, guys. My name is Dr. Rob Kelly, along with Jennifer Lovely. This is the Recovery Channel podcast, coming live on Facebook and YouTube to you guys. Hope you're having a great day. Sunny over here in San Antonio. A little chilly, but it's cool. What about you, Jen?
It's gorgeous here. It's almost 70 and sunny and beautiful. And I'm on my way to see my baby girl, Riley May, who is my granddaughter. So I'm leaving here after this show. So I'm excited.
Excellent. Tell everybody what we've got coming up for our teaching coaching course.
Oh, I'm so excited. So we have the ultimate coaching program starting. So it's an ontological / sober recovery coach course. And it starts March 13th. It's on the weekends. And it is going to be, if I may say, badass. And there's nothing like it, because we're bringing ontology, which is the study of being, who you are being in the world, with recovery, which is two places that they don't always intersect. And I'm excited to be doing this work with you. And I'm excited to learn all of your yummy, gushy knowledge. I'm going to soak it up.
And yours too. I mean, it's crazy because we come on both sides, and I'm betting, but don't know, that you can't do my job and I couldn't do your job because I'm just not knowledgeable enough. So it comes, and it is an amazing course, guys. It really is. Just messages to find out more. We'll give some more details later. But I know you're thinking, who's on the show today, Jen?
We have a big deal. He's kind of
have a big deal. If you're into hockey, guys, you'll know the name Theo Fleury. You'll know that name. That's who's on the show. Absolutely an amazing guy. Great story. I was on his podcast some months ago, and such a great guy. So after the short commercial break from our sponsor, guys, Theo will be on the show. Hey guys, for those who are watching, that was obviously New Choices, but for those that are listening, New Choices Treatment Center over here in San Antonio, the premier substance abuse facility in Texas, www.newchoicestc, stands for treatmentcenter.com, or call 726-888-7003 or 210-910-5154. Such an amazing place. It's one of the only places, and we only have two, that we end to go to. They're fair, they're straight, they're knowledgeable, and just an amazing place. New Choices, guys, is the place. Theo, welcome to the show, my friend.
What's up, brother?
How you doing?
That's funny that you have a treatment center commercial, because I'm a wily veteran of 4 treatment centers myself. So.
I love it.
That's awesome. You know, I think my children have you beat. They're 16.
Wow.
Yeah. It took that many treatment centers to get them to recover.
Wow.
And a couple stints in jail, I think, helped a little bit.
Yeah, that usually that's a good one. That's a good
Grabs
one.
their attention real quick.
You know, I spent one night in jail, and I went, that can never happen again. And it didn't. So
yeah.
Now I work in the jails. Now I work in the prison system. So it's one of my absolute favorite things that I get to do. So
well, tell us, you know, you're a big deal. So tell us who you are. And
don't they talk about humility in the big book?
They do, but let's leave that off the table for just a minute.
For sure. Yeah, I'm a former professional hockey player. Played 15 years in the NHL and had tremendous amount of success throughout my career. I was a part of some very incredible teams throughout my career. Won a Stanley Cup, won a World Junior, won a Canada Cup, Olympic gold medalist, played 1,000 games, had 1,000 points, played in 7 All-Star games. And in 2003, I got kicked out of the NHL because I couldn't stop drinking and I couldn't stop doing drugs, and my behavior was completely out of control.
That is a crazy resume. That is a crazy resume. I'm like thinking, what? I mean, it was great on the show when I was on with you and great doing some research. But when you say it out loud, I mean, man, that's a lot of stuff that you achieved. Now, when they kicked you out for drinking, most of that stuff you did, was you intoxicated during that time? Or did you ever go on ice intoxicated?
Never. Wow. No, I did all my bad stuff after I left the playing field. Yeah. There's many days when I showed up at practice, I was still wasted, but never during a game. So.
Wow. Yeah. That's crazy. So I just have to say, like, the thing I love about hockey the most are the fights. Mm-hmm. Yep. My all-time favorite. And then the other thing, Dr. Rob doesn't even know this about me, is that I used to skate in roller derby, and I was a roller derby girl, and I was just like badass, and I loved it because I love the physicality of it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's nothing like physical competition. Yeah. That's what I love the most. Yeah. You know, and I was I'm vertically challenged. Mm-hmm. So I was one of the smallest players to ever play in the National Hockey League. So
wow.
And, so I had a very large chip on my shoulder, and needless to say, I retired with 1,800 penalty minutes.
Wow.
To go along with you know, I always say it was the best anger management class I could have ever taken. It was called the NHL, because I could go out on the ice and beat the shit out of somebody, and they put me in the box for 5 minutes, and there wasn't a police officer in the penalty box with handcuffs charging me with assault. And I'd sit in there for 5 minutes, and then I could go out and do it all over again.
Win-win situation. Absolutely win-win situation. I'd try that. I'd go to jail.
Wow. 15 years. So I'm not surprised it imploded after I left the game.
Yeah.
So,
Same
that's actually the reason why I spent the night in jail was my girlfriend, fiance at the time, I came home in a drunken stupor, and she was not happy that I was out, and I had a one of a kind painting that I had. And when I got home, it was on the doorstep, and she had taken a knife to it and cut it all up. And that led to me creating some violence, and she called the police, and away I went.
Rightly so. Rightly so.
Of course.
Hey, I love the way he said, Jen, I love the way he says, creating some violence. That's the best way I've heard it before. I went in there, Ronnie. I kind of created some violence. Oh, young man, do you mean you beat the shit out of her? No, I created a little violence.
Yeah.
I love that. Theo.
That's what you should use with
I know. Right? I'm going to use that now. And if I get in trouble, I just say, you need to call Theo. It's his deal, you know. So let's take you back to the beginning. Where did it all start for you regarding the addiction side? I mean, your teams look amazing. I mean, you were breaking records. You were doing stuff around you that nobody else could do. Where did your addiction start?
Well, it started not too long after my sexual abuse experience. I was raped 150 times by a coach over a 2.5-year period. And so I discovered that beautiful, wonderful brown substance that came in a bottle called beer. And, it sort of suppressed all of those, all that emotional pain and scars that were left behind from that experience. And I was hooked like instantly. And then, as I sort of moved along in my life, I discovered another awesome substance called cocaine, and, went on that gravy chain for a short amount of time, because when we use that stuff, it's a quick, fast trip to the bottom of the gutter. And, that's where that all sort of led me. So, I really dislike the word addiction because there's so much shame attached to it. And really, ultimately, what is it? It's emotional pain management. That's what addiction is. It's a way to suppress all these negative feelings and emotions, you know, that I have, you know, that I carry around. And not only that, there was really no place, you know, in sort of my macho sport, you know, to talk about sadness and talk about, you know, it was a really hard place to be vulnerable, you know. And, you know, I had lots of mental health issues. You know, it wasn't my addiction that took me out of the game. It was I couldn't no longer manage my mental health. You know, I was suffering from depression, anxiety, panic, you name it. And you know, everybody thinks that it was my addiction that took me out of the game. No, it was my mental illness that took me out of the game. And, you know, unfortunately, you know, I did the whole big pharma thing. That was a hell of a ride too. Holy fuck. It was crazy, you know? So, and, you know, now, you know, my toolbox is no longer filled with addiction as coping mechanisms. You know, I've taken a real sort of holistic approach to my own recovery and my own therapy. And, you know, the biggest piece is spirituality, you know? It was the one thing that, I just couldn't get a grasp on. And, you know, the night I got sober, you know, I hit my knees in the washroom and I said to the good man upstairs, I said, I'm done. And I need you to take away the obsession to drink and do drugs. And I woke up the next morning and that was, let me just check my, my app here. Today, I have 5,644 days of sobriety, you know, and thank God, because I know I wouldn't be here if I didn't make that choice and didn't make that decision and I didn't surrender, you know, and that's exactly what happened. I surrendered and I turned my will and my life over to the care of the universe as I understand it. And, you know, my God has God, Allah, Buddha, Jehovah, you know, trees in my backyard. They're all part of, you know, what I believe in.
God, I love that. I would be remiss if I didn't say this, but that motherfucker, that coach.
Yep.
Did he get caught?
Yep.
Good.
But he didn't go away for long enough. You know, we don't have a justice system in Canada. We have a legal system. That's what it is. Where the lawyers get rich and the survivors get re-victimized. That's our system.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
it is our system.
Yeah.
I want to dive a little. That was my anger management practice, by the way, because I'm also a survivor of sexual abuse. And fuck, I mean, it's just bullshit.
It's a living murder, is what it is. It is. Yeah, and it should be treated. It should be treated as such.
Yeah. And you know, the thing is that, and I'm going to say this out loud because the lovers in my life, the people that really love me, have had to pay the price for that.
Yep.
You know, it sucks.
There's a long line of incredible women in my story who I've done extreme damage to, unfortunately, because of that experience, right? But thank God we have step 8 and 9 in the program, and you know, I get to make amends.
For sure. Yeah. For sure. So talk to me about, hold on. Sorry, Rob. I just want to dive in a little bit. Talk to me about, what is it about surrendering that is so difficult?
Well, it's about control, right? You know, and as addicts and alcoholics, like, we have to be in control of everything, right? And, you know, left to my own defenses, left to me running my own life, is the biggest shit show on the planet when I'm running the show, right? And, you know, when I surrendered, you know, 5,644 days ago, I gave up the power to be in control, okay? And I had to trust that, you know, my higher power was going to guide me for the rest of my life. And, you know, when I drive the bus always crashes. Okay. So, you know, 5,600 and some odd days ago, I got into the passenger seat And I let anybody else who wants to drive the bus. And I had to have faith that I was going to be taken care of. And guess what happened? I've been taken care of ever since, every day. And as long as I have that spiritual connection, and my biggest fear was always that I hated to be alone, right?
Yeah.
And when I'm spiritually connected, I'm never alone, right? Never alone. And, I absolutely love being by myself now, because it's, I've learned in the process that, all of these traumatic experiences that I had sort of left me with 4 things. Trauma taught me 4 things: abandonment and neglect. I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. And do I even exist in the world? Right. And what I know from neuroscience is that I can actually rewire my brain. I can rewire my beliefs. I can change my nervous system. I can create new pathways for, new neurons to grow, all that stuff. And so, as a part of sort of dedicating my life to healing myself, I've been able to, rewire that piece, and I love myself. I take care of myself, all of those things, because ultimately in recovery, it has to come down to you, right? You have to get rid of all those old beliefs and all those old teachings and all those old things. And the only place they're going to come from is from within, right? And really good teachers and coaches, right? That's where all that stuff's going to come from, And what was interesting was, I had a coach my whole entire life. My whole entire existence on the planet had a coach. So in recovery, we can't do it on our own. We need coaches. We need sponsors, or whatever the hell you want to call them. We need guides, and not people that are co-signing our bullshit.
Right.
People that are actually going to call us out on our shit. And even though we don't like it, it's a part of the process.
Yeah.
That's why we go. That's why we go into the rooms. That's why we go into the rooms, is we go in to listen and we go in to learn from the guys that are doing the deal, right? And then we follow what they're doing. Rarely have we seen a person fail who's followed our path, simple path, right?
Right.
But I went in like this, fucking, yeah, I know it all. I know everything. I'm still angry, pissed off,
Yeah.
And the process, ultimately, what is recovery? Peace, joy, happiness, and serenity. That's where we're trying to get to. Ultimately, that's where we're trying to get to. But it's a lot of hard work. It is a lot of hard work. And how many people want to do the work?
Not very little. Very little people. Everyone wants to walk the walk, but when you come to talking the talk, they're not interested. I had a sponsor the other day say to me, "Hey, Rob, I'm really sorry. I was just acting out old behavior." And I said, "Listen, if you're acting out old behavior, guess what? It's not fucking old behavior. It's current behavior. So that old excuse doesn't work with me." The book, I love the book. I mean, I often say this. I've been in and out of colleges, schools for 20-something years learning what I do. I specialize in neuroplasticity and the addictive brain. And I have never, in all that time, read anything like the first 164 pertaining to the alcoholic and the recovery of. But here's the amazing part, Theo. 10 years ago, we found out that the brain was plastic, like you were saying. We can change the way we think, and we can change the way we think permanently. Only 10 years ago did we find that. But in 1938, when them guys are writing the book, they talk about a psychic change, psychic of the mind, psychologists, psychiatrists, a change of mind. In 1938, and yet only 10 years ago, we found out you could do that. So unless the psychic change in neural pathways happen, you see, I look at it that we have self-sabotaging neural pathways when we're born with the addicted brain. So I'm always going to build a bright future, and I'm always going to knock it down or do something like that all my life. And the reason why I do that is because my brain tells me to self-sabotage. whenever it's getting any good. Why would that ever change unless you have the change of neural pathways? It will always self-destruct. And what's even worse is the brain is telling us to. So the hypothalamus at the back of the brain, near the prehistoric brain, tells it's a fight or flight part of the brain. It tells normal people to eat food and drink water, to stay or to flee. Do you know what it tells the alcoholic? To drink alcohol. And that's where people say, my fucking brain is telling me to drink alcohol. Why would I stop? It's impossible to stop once you start. So, you need people in your life that you trust, you know, who you can trust fully with your life. Because if you don't get through this shit, I don't care what you do and who you are, it will come back and it will bite you on the ass. And have a guess what, guys? It's a progressive illness. Never gets any better. You know, never gets any better. Okay, Theo, give me your best and worst time throughout your life to date.
Well, I think my best time was, you know, I was always told you're too small and you're never going to make it. I wish I had $1 for every time somebody told me that, because I wouldn't have had to play in the NHL. I would have been rich beyond my wildest dreams, right? And so the greatest time of my life was I got to do something for 15 years that I absolutely loved to do. And they actually paid me to do that, you know, and I got to do that for 15 years. And because of that, you know, I had all these incredible moments in my life. And the worst time of my life was right at the very end, when 16 years ago, I had a fully loaded pistol in my mouth, ready to pull the trigger, not because I wanted to die, but because I was completely exhausted from living in emotional pain and suffering for the majority of my life. And I tried everything on the planet to get rid of this pain and this suffering. And right at the moment of truth, when it was time to pull the trigger and end my life, this little voice in my head said, "You've never quit anything in your life. Why are you quitting now?" And that allowed me to take the gun and throw it into the desert. And I had two choices. Was I going to die or was I going to live? Well, I chose to live, but guess what? I have no fucking clue how to live life on life's terms. And then, you know, that started this whole journey of healing and self-discovery and getting rid of the trauma and getting rid of all the resentments and the anger and the frustration and, you know, all that stuff. And so, even though it was like the worst time of my life, it was probably the best thing that ever happened, you know? So, and, you know, I've always managed to take something negative and turn it into something positive my whole entire life, you know? So it, even though it was a dark time, but I had to go there to get to the place that I realized that I really wanted to live, you know? And I knew that what I was showing the world was not who I really was. You know, I was way better than what I was showing the world. And so every day that I've been sober, I've been trying to, you know, to show people the best part of my heart and my soul.
I love that. Absolutely. Going to commercial break, guys. Theo Fleury is on the show. We'll be right back after this.
Wait, you want some more?
Welcome back, guys. For those just watching, this was Take 12 Radio. It's a radio station that runs once a week. Such an amazing show. Monty Meyer, or Monty Man as we know him, is the man that produces that and runs the show itself. A great place to go to when you're not listening to ours, of course, take12radio.com. Okay, Jen, it's all yours.
Awesome. Thank you. So I came into this program by way of my qualifiers are my children, recovered heroin addicts. And I sat in the rooms and was like, these aren't my people. What am I doing here? And sat there and judged the shit out of all of them, right?
Right.
Until about 2 months into it, I was like, oh, these are my people. And I began to allow myself to open up, and healing began to happen just by way of even listening, sharing a little bit and listening.
Yeah.
And it's no mistake that both of my kids turned out to be heroin addicts with a mom like me, right? I have my own addictions and own shit, right?
Yep.
And especially like having been sexually abused, I was like, of course, I carried all of this trauma and passed it down. And the thing that I'm really, really aware of is that it is the best thing that ever happened to me. Like when people are like, "Oh, I'm so sorry that happened." No, I'm really not. Yes, it's very painful, but no, I'm not sorry.
Yeah.
And so I'm always curious, and people always ask me, Rob, this happens with Rob and I's clients. Jen, how do I love myself? Tell me how I start to love myself.
Right.
I'm really curious, Theo, how do you begin to love yourself?
Well, I think first of all, that surrender piece was part of self-love. And that day I made a promise to myself that no matter what happened in my life from here on in, I'm never going to pick up again. No matter what, I'm not going to drink. Right. That's part of self-love, right? Is having those realizations that, I call alcohol like a solvent. Mm-hmm. When I put it in my body, everything disappears. Family, wives, jobs, friends, everything disappears, right? And I'd been through that process many times. But the journey is a 3-step process. It's emotional healing, it's physical healing, and it's spiritual healing. And when you dedicate yourself to doing one of those 3 things every day, then you're practicing self-love, right? Booking an appointment with a therapist, that's self-love. Sleeping 8 hours a day, right? Eating properly, exercising, and then practicing spirituality, whatever that looks like for you, And, I found my spirituality in the Indigenous community. I'm an Aboriginal person, and I do sweat lodges with one of the most powerful medicine men in the world, who lives a couple hours, down the road from me. And so when I participate in ceremony, that's self-love, right? Because I'm taking care of myself for the first time. Because after my abuser left my life, guess what happened? I took over the abuse and I abused myself with drugs and alcohol and relationships and, you name it, right? Anger, resentments, all that stuff. And so, anytime you're doing anything that's going to improve the quality of your life, that's self-love, right? And nobody does it perfectly. And I always say the one guy that did do things perfectly, guess what? They killed him. Jesus, so. Yeah, exactly. Right? And so, self-love is a hard thing for us to get around, and, I grew up in I grew up in an addicted environment, like both my parents. And so I was in Al-Anon before I was ever in Alcoholics Anonymous, right? Because I'm a codependent fixer, type of guy. So, I also have that as a part of all of this too, so.
Double winner, baby.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Crazy. I say I belong to all the A groups, all of them.
And there's 22,000. I don't know how many there is, but yeah, put my name down for everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
So before we get into what you do today, I want to ask you a personal question, and it's only because I was an abuser. But was there any steroid use while you were playing?
I didn't see any of that. No, hockey players we're drinkers. We're just hardcore drinkers. I think towards the end of my career, there was a few guys that, dabbled in human growth hormone stuff, but I never saw it. We smoked cigarettes, we drank booze, and did some drugs. But other than that, because we were playing like 3-4 games a week and traveling all over North America, right? So, but I never saw them. Like nobody ever brought them out. Nobody ever approached us. I would say the fighters were the guys that probably got more into, the steroid stuff. Because for me, my game was agility and quickness and all that. If I took steroids, I'd just be this big blob, and I would have had cement hands and I would have chopped the puck up into a million pieces. So, I needed, I needed that, that finesse, so to speak. So
I remember being over when I first came over here. I was going with this girl. We met a family for the first time, and it was nerve-wracking for me. So I went there, and what happened is I was using sweetener, and I spilled most of it on the table. So we're all talking, and without even recognizing, I'm using the paper of the sweetener to kind of make it all straight lines across the table. And when I realized I did it, I looked up, and everybody was like, everybody knew. And they didn't even know I had a problem, but everyone knew after that. It was like,
oh man,
that's funny.
Yeah, I absolutely loved cocaine. It was like heaven to me, and going through my own process of trying to put the whole entire puzzle together. My mom, while I was in utero, took Valium. So, I was the happiest, calmest baby for 9 months that you probably could ever, because I was bathing in GABA, right? And what happened is it actually caused some brain damage because it shut off my dopamine, serotonin receptors. So when I came out into the world, I was anxious, scared baby, right? And when I discovered cocaine, so all the people I would be doing cocaine with, they'd be talking 400 miles an hour, chewing on their faces, tweaking all this stuff. And I would do cocaine and I would be completely mellow, right? And so, I got super addicted to it because it was like medicine. It was because when I was on the ice, playing in front of 20,000 people every night, it's pure dopamine, pure serotonin. It was the only time my brain was actually functioning, at an optimum level. But when I left the rink, can't produce dopamine, so go to the bars, go to the strip joints, one-stop shopping,
Just replace it all.
Yeah, just replace it all.
I still get that today whenever I speak anywhere or I'm on TV. Not so much TV, but the speaking.
Yeah.
I'm very nervous before I go on. I go on, I do what I need to do. Don't really remember it when I come off. It's such a low.
Yeah.
Especially the drive home. It's like horrible. So tell everyone, Theo, what you do today.
Well, let's see. I have many hats that I wear, but I'm a speaker first and foremost. I've done 800 speeches in the last 12 and a half years. I am a author. I wrote 2 best-selling books. I'm working on my 3rd one right now. And what else do I do? I'm a facilitator. I do workshops. I work in the prison system. I work in the Indigenous community. I'm a sobriety coach as well. I have 4 or 5 clients as well. And it's all about recovery. My whole entire existence is about recovery. I dedicated my life to recovery after I wrote my book, my first book, because I got completely run over after I finished writing the book. People were coming at me from every direction, sexual abuse survivors wanting to tell me their story for the first time in their lives. And so, the biggest epidemic on the planet is not COVID-19. It's trauma, it's mental health, and it's addiction. That's the biggest epidemic on the planet.
There's so many questions and there's so many places I want to go with you, Theo, but I know, we're up against a time limit, but what I want to say is, one of the things that Gabor Mate says is that he looks at what addiction did for us, right? And for me, sex and love and I dabbled. I really loved ecstasy for a period of time in my life. That felt really good. You know why? Because it brought down all of my barriers, and it allowed me to be this loving person that I truly am.
Yep.
But and not have to have sex with it either, right?
Right.
Because I equivalated sex with love, and that was the only way I could do it.
Of course.
But so when we look at what our addiction has done for us, it then gives us access to that self-love that we can ultimately get to.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really curious, what how do you express that with your clients? How do you get them to that place where they can see what addiction did for them?
Yeah, well, it's a lot of patience, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You just try to guide them so they have that light bulb moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, coaching is about asking questions.
Yes.
That's all it is. It's about asking questions, and then the next question, the next question, the next question, until they actually have that moment, that awakening, right? Mm-hmm. And when the light bulb goes off, that's when they get it, right? That's when they get it. But sometimes, I've had experiences where people have got it in the first week, and I have guys who are been in and out of sobriety for 25 years who are still, haven't been convinced yet that they have a problem, or they don't know how to stop or whatever. So, it takes a tremendous amount of patience, but it takes a tremendous amount of love.
Yeah.
Right. I think, when you love people on a spiritual level, right, where everybody matters, everybody's story matters, and I always say, your story is my story and my story is your story, right? And take all the hockey stuff out of my story and I'm just a floor licking drunk. That's what I am. Mm-hmm. At the core of who I am is that. Because if I drink again, that's where I'm going to end up, right? Jails, death, institutions, right?
Every time.
And so, we have that stupid saying, I'm going to love you until you can love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's true,
because we've never experienced that kind of unconditional love, in our lives. And so we have to show that to the people that we work with, right? Is that they can get to, that ultimate place of, self-love, because ultimately that's where we got to get our clients to, is them taking care of themselves.
And everybody can do it. Everybody's, it's just, sometimes it's just being able to convince the guy, because we never see ourselves for who we are. That's and the definition of insanity is not being able to see my own truth. Theo, we are desperately running out of time. I just want to say a couple of things, and then Jen always asks an amazing question at the end. But first of all, I want to recognize you just being a superhero, man. I know this ego stuff. I don't believe in ego, Theo. I really don't. I believe in confidence. When we are drinking and using, that's ego. When you get well and you have the spiritual awakening and psychic change, therefore your DNA changes. It's confidence. I want to thank you for bringing this to the world. I want to thank you for having an impression on millions of people's lives with the ripple effect, because we never know that. And I want to thank you for being on the show. So thank you very much, Theo. You're an awesome guy.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, and I can't wait till this travel shit is finished, because I want to come spend some time with you.
Awesome. We'll do it. Make it happen.
Love that. We would love that. And I want to come to your sweat lodge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Seriously.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Anytime. It is the most incredible spiritual thing you will ever do in your whole entire life.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Yeah. The closest I've ever come to that is, Bikram hot yoga.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's similar. Like it's similar.
Yeah.
It's very similar. Right.
Yeah. So, well, first I just want to acknowledge you for your heart. because it jumps out as soon as you come into light, your heart jumps out, and it's beautiful, and it's deep, and it is full, and it is so much strength, and your resiliency is just amazing. So thank you for giving the world that. But I'd like to ask you, what do you want to leave people with? People that are just, whether they're struggling or not, what do you want to leave them with?
Hope, right? You know, we're living in a world right now where they're selling fear. Okay. And, you know, I always said, you know, when I had that gun in my mouth, I had that much hope left. That was it. All I had left. And from that, I still had hope. And I built this amazing life from having just a tiny bit of hope. And so, you know, there's not enough people right now are selling hope, right? And all I see all day long is pain and suffering. Okay. And, you know, part of my big goal, you know, the 40,000 foot goal is to alleviate pain and suffering on the planet, because I believe it's unnecessary. You know, is that when we enter relationships with love, compassion, empathy, and understanding, and listening, and presence, and attunement, just that alone, that intention changes the person's brain that we're working with. Automatically changes their brain, because they've never experienced that in their life. All they've seen is violence and abuse and, you know, all these things. And so, you know, when you come in with the intention of providing that other human being with which you're working with those characteristics, they're going to change. If they stick around long enough and you show them that every day, that consistency, that relentless positivity, they're going to get it. They're going to recover. Right.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Absolutely.
And that's what it's about.
Guys, Theo Fleury was on the show. Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll be back after this break. We've got some gifts for you and stuff. But for now, thank you so much, Theo. Awesome.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate the opportunity always. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the end of the show. That was New Choices Treatment Center, guys. One of the only two that we refer to, I must admit, premier substance abuse facility in Texas. New Choices TC Treatment Center.com, or call them on 726-888-7003 or info@newchoicestc.com. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us. And that was an amazing guest, but I only have 2 minutes before I go live on a national radio show. So we want to tell you a couple of things. First of all, thank Theo for coming on. Just an amazing guy with an amazing effect on loads of people. And first of all, you see these amazing cups. There you go. You can have one of yours.
Channel.
Anybody can have one. All you have to do for guys living a million miles away is pay postage. We'll pay for the cup. We'll pay for all the packing. Just pay postage. You can look up Janet Kelly. She'll do all the details. Or you can text or email myself or Jen. And don't forget, we have the Addiction Diaries is also online by Jennifer. And Daddy, Please Stop Drinking. And once again, Thank you so much. And I'll hand over to Jen.
And I just really want to say, if Theo is not an example of being a powerful coach in the world and spreading hope, I don't know what is. And I don't know what else you need to sign up to become a recovery coach with Dr. Rob and myself. So the ultimate recovery coaching program, please reach out to Dr. Rob or myself and we will get you signed up. This is going to be an amazing opportunity. And we're going to be doing it in the springs and fall. So if you can't catch it this time, of course you can catch it next time, but please reach out to us. And thank you, Dr. Rob. That was an amazing conversation. Always feel so honored to be in these conversations with these human beings. So
I know. Absolutely perfect. Thank you guys once again. From me and Jennifer, we'll say we'll see you next time and have a great week. Thank you guys.
Bye.